The key to the riddle lies with this man, Karzai-Taliban-Al-Qaida-Hekmatyar, former Afghan Prime Minister, the man who chose to destroy Kabul in the civil war in the mid-1990s before the Taliban took power in 1996. In fact, he managed to kill more Afghans than Soviets. Hekmatyar is the Michael Corleone of jihad. Recently in Dubai, the Afghan government offered him a deal. Asylum in Saudi Arabia first, then return to Afghanistan with full immunity. Problem is, Hekmatyar does not want asylum. He wants to be part of the government in Kabul. Former Taliban Foreign Minister Mullah Mutawakil knows from experience. He says this thing is not gonna work.
It will not benefit anyone if he brings one part of the Taliban into government and leaves the other part behind. It will not finish the war.
This means that Obama's special envoy Richard Holbrooke will have first to find out where he is and then talk to this guy here, the shadow, Mullah Omar.
If Mullah Omar agrees, or those who are around authorized by Mullah Omar, this is the real Taliban faction and they can bring peace.
What would Mullah Omar tell Holbrooke? Well, exactly what Mullah Omar's close friend Mullah Mutasim, a former Taliban finance minister, told Al Samud magazine last week. We want the US and NATO out of Afghanistan. Mullah Omar would also say we want Sharia law and absolutely no Western interference. Now, what does Michael Corleone, Hekmatyar want? Well, he's not Taliban. He's not Al-Qaeda. He was a darling of the US, Saudi Arabia, and the Pakistani ISI during the jihad in the 1980s. He's not a fundamentalist. It's more like Muslim Brotherhood. The CIA tried to kill him with what else? A Hellfire missile. He escaped. Then the ISI helped him to regroup. Karzai offered him a government post. Pakistan released his brother from custody. China invited his link to the ISI and Zardari, the Jamaat-e-Islami party, to Beijing for talks. So everybody loves him. Karzai, Zardari, the ISI, the House of Saud, China, and sooner or later, the Obama administration as well. So he may get an offer he can't refuse. But there's a problem. He also wants the US and NATO out. And he's clever enough to try to fight a united Taliban, flush with opium money, and ultra-energized against the Petraeus counterinsurgency tactics. By the way, he was the pioneer of refining heroin inside Afghanistan instead of just taxing opium. So what happens next? Well, the usual. The United Pakistani Taliban are helping to prepare the massive spring offensive directed by this guy here, Mullah Omar, against the surging US plus NATO in Afghanistan. So Zardari is leaving the Pak Taliban in peace. So no wonder Washington is absolutely fed up. The solution? Well, the Pakistani military back in power, Musharraf style. What else is new? Pakistan's Chief of Army Staff, General Ashfaq Kiyani, he was in Washington less than 2 weeks ago, maybe to get his marching orders. The Bush game was invasion equals liberation. The Obama game is counterinsurgency. Washington is throwing more money, more weapons, and a few PhDs into this game. But this is not about conquering hearts and minds in Afghanistan. The Taliban, they have enough money, enough weapons, enough appeal in the Pashtun areas to resist anything the West throws at them short of a nuclear device. You don't fight a mafia with counterinsurgency. You fight it with a good, coordinated police sting. Follow the money. Cut the Taliban's source of funds out of smuggling opium. Meanwhile, US corporate media is not doing their job again. Misinformation is leading no less than 2/3 of Americans to believe that the surge is a good deal. Obama swears, and I quote, "We have no interest or aspiration to be in Afghanistan over the long term." Well, perhaps he forgot to ask the Pentagon. Their acronym-infested Bible is here, and it spells counterinsurgency forever. Or maybe Obama should ask Lieutenant General retired David Barno, the former top military in Afghanistan. This guy over here, he's gonna have a lot of fun. See you in 2025.
Donate today and receive a new documentary film available to members of the Real News Network. The History of the National Security State with legendary author Gore Vidal. Bonus features of the DVD include an in-depth response to Vidal from ex-CIA analyst Ray McGovern, who served under 7 U.S. presidents, an exclusive interview with Colin Powell's former Chief of Staff Larry Wilkerson, and an insightful interview with oil policy analyst Antonia Juhas.
The news magazine of the screen. Living glimpses of history in the making.
Hollywood and Washington is a symbiotic relationship. They both deal with illusions. Reality doesn't often play much of a part. I think I saw through the myth of the Cold War almost from the beginning. I was a Washington political kid from a political family. Roosevelt first had radio because he had this great speaking voice and everyone liked to hear. Truman proceeded to break every arrangement that Roosevelt had set up for a peaceful coexistence. And Truman thought that it would be a good idea. Why not just stay armed all the time? And then he devised the national security state. You've got to go up and swear allegiance to the United States or else you're a commie. I mean, we had imported fascism. We get Dwight Eisenhower, who said that we have this great military industrial complex. It is a dangerous thing. And he said this is going to change everything. And the way our country's governed is going to change us politically. Along comes Jack Kennedy, who wanted to make his mark, believed in the Cold War. But he said in this kind of politics, it is the appearance of things that matters. I think everybody should take a sober look at the world about us. The national security state still exists, only it isn't communism anymore, it's terrorism. This is the most serious thing that has happened in the history of the United States. Knowledge is power. We need an honest news system.
We need the real news.
This is the sort of thing we can build right now without anyone else's permission from the government or from the business community. It's the power's in our hands.
If we're not going to sleepwalk into more wars, we think we need to start with a television news network that won't bow to pressure and has the courage to seek facts. And that means independent economics. And that's why we need you.
Make a tax-deductible donation now of at least $10 a month or a one-time give of at least $75. As a thank you for your support, we will send you the new documentary film, The History of the National Security State.